Welcome to the Personality Driven Podcast with your AI hosts, Jeff and Jazz.
Welcome back to another deep dive.
Always exciting to jump into a new stack of sources.
You know it.
Oh.
And today we're really in for a treat.
Oh, what's on the docket?
This time we're cracking open Personality Driven. It's called The Secret Sauce for Selling News.
Interesting title. Who's the author?
It's by Raymond Brune.
Okay.
You know, the Emmy and Peabody winning TV executive.
Oh, wow. So he knows his stuff.
Oh, yeah. 4 Emmys, 8 nominations. I mean, the guy's a legend.
That's impressive. So what's so special about this book?
Well, this book is actually considered like one of the 7 most influential books in the entire TV news industry.
Really? Wow, that's a big deal. So what secrets are we uncovering today?
Well, get this. We're going to dive deep into producing, picking the right stories, how to package them for maximum impact, and present them in a way that just like grabs people.
Sounds fascinating. And where do we start?
Buckle up, because we're kicking things off with a trip back in time
Wow.
to 1987.
Oh, what happened in 1987?
Ray actually went to, wait for it, producer school.
Producer school.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. You know, it makes you think about how the industry was changing back then.
Right.
Consultants like Majid were becoming a big deal.
Oh, yeah. Huge. And Ray was already producing like the 11 o'clock newscast at WBNS in Columbus.
Okay.
Which was a powerhouse ratings-wise, but still, his news director thought it was important to send him to Majid's headquarters in Marion, Iowa.
To learn some new tricks of the trade, huh?
Exactly. New techniques, fresh perspectives, the whole shebang. And one of the most memorable things he saw there was a segment with the legendary Detroit anchorman, Bill Bonds.
Oh, wow. Bill Bonds. That's a name I haven't heard in a while.
Yeah.
So what was he reporting on?
Here's the twist. He wasn't reporting hard news.
He wasn't.
Nope. He was talking about Girl Scout cookies.
Girl Scout cookies.
Really? Right? Totally unexpected.
It's brilliant, though, when you think about it.
Is.
A serious anchor like Bill Bonds talking about something so lighthearted and relatable.
Yeah.
It must have been like a breath of fresh air for viewers. Totally subverted expectations, made the segment instantly more engaging.
And they used all these clever camera tricks, close-ups of the cookies, cutaways to his co-anchor, who was like trying not to laugh.
I can just picture it.
There was even a surprise cameo from another anchor trying to steal the cookies.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, the whole thing was pure entertainment.
That's fantastic. It really highlights how powerful it can be to take someone familiar, someone the audience trusts, and put them in a situation that's totally unexpected.
You get the nail on the head. And that wasn't all. Ray also saw the power of simple, visual storytelling at its best.
Oh, what do you mean?
There was this segment, and it was just about a family of ducks trying to cross a busy road.
Oh.
The mama duck was struggling to keep all her little ducklings together.
I can imagine.
Oh, and one of the little ducklings, it just couldn't make it up onto the curb.
Oh, no.
And the mama duck, she went back and nudged him up with her beak.
Oh, that's so sweet.
It was so heartwarming. And they didn't need any narration, just the visuals and the natural sounds.
Exactly. Sometimes the simplest stories, told visually, are the ones that pack the biggest emotional punch.
It makes you wonder if maybe we've lost a little of that focus on the human element in news today.
Right. With all the technology and the pressure to be flashy, sometimes the simplest stories are the most powerful.
It's true. And Ray actually talks about how a lot of producers get so bogged down with all the technical stuff that they kind of forget about connecting with the audience on that emotional level.
Makes sense.
He even tells this funny story about suggesting to a producer, like, hey, why don't you go chat with the anchors during commercial breaks?
Oh, to keep the energy up, build some rapport.
Exactly. And the producer was totally clueless. Like, why would I do that?
Wow.
I know.
Hmm.
It's funny, but it's also kind of sad.
Yeah. It shows how easy it is to get caught up in the mechanics of production and forget about the human connection. Technical skills are obviously super important, but they should never overshadow the heart of the story.
The editorial vision, the human touch.
Exactly. It's a delicate balance, for sure. Now, you mentioned earlier about choosing the right stories.
Right.
Ray has a whole system for that, doesn't he?
He does.
What is it?
He calls it his lead filter.
Lead filter.
Yeah.
Okay. And what are the criteria?
Well, it all boils down to 3 pretty simple but powerful questions.
Mm-hmm.
Is it new? Do we have visuals? And probably most importantly, do people care?
Those are great guiding principles, I think. But what about those situations where a story might be lacking in one area but like exceptionally strong in another?
Yeah.
Like you have a really powerful human interest story, but maybe the visuals aren't that strong. How does he navigate those kinds of situations?
Well, that's where his regional priorities hierarchy comes in.
Okay.
So, like local stories that aren't just breaking news, those are always top contenders
Makes sense.
because they have that inherent relevance for the audience.
Yeah, for sure.
And then there's what he calls news for everyone,
News for everyone.
or NFE.
NFE.
Yeah. So these are stories with broad appeal.
Yeah.
They impact a large audience, like think medical breakthroughs, consumer victories, things that affect people's daily lives.
So these NFE stories, they're almost like those universally relatable pieces, right?
Right.
The ones that resonate because they tap into those shared experiences or concerns that so many of us have. It's fascinating, actually, how he categorizes those types of stories.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting, like he gives the example of like Bank of America backing down on those new ATM fees.
Oh, yeah, after all that public outcry.
Exactly. It's a win for the little guy.
Yeah.
It's something everyone can relate to. You know what's at the bottom of his list?
What's that?
International stories. He rarely leads with them.
Really? Why is that?
Well, he argues that most people tuning into local news they're tuning in for local news.
Makes sense. Understand your platform. Understand what your audience is expecting, and don't try to be everything to everyone, right?
Right. And, you know, picking the right story, it's just the first step.
Uh-huh.
Then it's about how you package it,
Of course.
how you present it to keep those viewers hooked. What's Ray's take on that?
I'm curious to know.
He's got some strong opinions there, too.
Okay.
Right from the very first sentence, he's all about grabbing attention, establishing relevance, and transitioning seamlessly to the video or the live report.
Seamless transitions are so important, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. He actually provides a 4-sentence formula for selling that lead story.
Oh, a formula. I love a good formula.
Right. So you grab attention with sentence 1.
Okay.
You establish relevance in sentence 2, provide some backstory in sentence 3, and transition to the reporter in sentence 4.
It's interesting how he breaks it down into such a structured format. Really highlights the intentionality behind every single element.
Right. And let's not forget about the teases.
Oh, the teases.
Yeah.
So important.
He believes in using them strategically to keep viewers engaged. Sometimes even like withholding the lead story.
Oh, to create that element of suspense.
Exactly. And he actually tells this pretty controversial anecdote.
Oh, what is it?
Remember Roseanne Barr's infamous rendition of the national anthem at that Padres game back in 1990?
Oh, yeah, the one that sparked a national debate. That must have been a tough call to lead with that story.
You would think it'd be a no-brainer, right? It was new, it was visually compelling, everybody was talking about it, even President Bush.
Right.
But Ray got some pushback from his colleagues, some who thought it was just too sensationalistic.
Oh, so it wasn't universally seen as an appropriate story for the news.
Exactly. But Ray, he trusted his gut. He knew it was the story everyone would be discussing, and he went with it. And guess what? The Associated Press, they ended up awarding them Best Newscast for that episode.
Wow, what a vindication. It's a great example of how sometimes you have to go against the grain, trust your instincts as a content creator.
You got it.
These 4 news anchors, they went from making about $80,000 in year 1 to a whopping $750,000 in year 3. Our local newscast in Los Angeles became a massive hit, the highest rated morning show like ever. And these guys evolved into jump off the screen personalities. It was almost by accident.
And the Emmy goes to KTLA Morning News.
But I took that secret sauce I discovered and I repurposed our success over and over and over and over again. My name is Raymond J. Brune. I have produced more than 15,000 hours of live television, a mantle full of awards, and money was no object. I went on to create and produce at the networks and start up a sports cable network that was valued at an unheard of $3 billion in its 3rd year. All because I repurposed that secret sauce of producing personality-driven television. In this book, I reveal how I did it, step by step. It's no secret. It was right there on the screen for everybody to see. Now it's on the page. The secret of my success is exclusively on Amazon. Do you want to transform your news format into a franchise funneling in countless millions of dollars? Do you want to transform yourself from a mere newsreader to an authentic, jump-off-the-screen personality? All it takes is a leap of faith. Personality Driven, the secret sauce for selling news. Now in paperback and ebook.
Now, we've talked about picking and packaging stories. What about the presentation itself? The on-air talent. How does Ray approach showcasing personality in a newscast?
That's a great question. What does he say about that?
Well, he believes that having authentic personalities on air is crucial. He gives an example from when he was launching Eye Opener in Chicago. The original concept was this super edgy, anchorless format called eye candy.
Eye candy, that's quite a departure from the traditional news format.
Right. But there are these management shakeups at Tribune, and eye candy got scrapped for a more traditional format with anchors. But Ray, he still wanted to inject that personality and originality into the show.
So even within the constraints of a more traditional format, he was determined to break the mold.
Exactly. He focused on finding authentic personalities, not just polished newsreaders. He tells this great story about hiring Kirby O'Connell as their main host.
Okay.
During our audition, she was flawless, like reading the news perfectly. But off camera, she was this witty, sarcastic person.
Yeah.
And that's the side of her that Ray wanted for the show.
That's so smart, finding someone who could connect with the audience on a more personal level, beyond just delivering the news.
Totally. And their other co-host, Adam Lee Campbell, Ray actually encouraged him to show his true colors, too.
Oh, how do you do that?
By, get this, deliberately provoking him into an argument.
Wow. Talk about unconventional directing techniques. Did it work?
It did. Ray says, once Adam dropped that anchorman facade and got a little fired up, his true personality emerged. And that's the personality that resonated with viewers. They even brought their intern, Sean Dowling, in as the third host. So you have this fun, dynamic trio. It felt more like a group of friends than a stuffy news team. And their set was just as unique, this industrial-style space in the basement of the Tribune Tower, overlooking what looked like a giant newsroom.
So they were breaking conventions on multiple levels, the talent, the set design, the overall tone of the show.
Totally. And it paid off. They started airing on Chi-H in Houston as a test run, competing against the major network morning shows. And within 10 weeks, they were beating the competition in key demographics.
It's amazing how much of a difference personality can make, even in such a crowded market. Now, besides choosing the right personalities, how else did Ray package the content itself?
Well, he moved away from that really predictable newscast format, and he introduced these prepackaged segments like Need to Know and News Stream,
Okay.
which were, really heavy on the news for everyone's stories, and they were just really visually engaging.
So creating these mini shows within the show to keep things fresh and fast-paced.
Exactly.
It's a great way to cover a lot of ground without overwhelming the viewer.
Yep. And he's a big believer in using those teases strategically,
The tease?
sometimes even withholding the lead story to build suspense.
I mean, there's definitely a fine line between teasing and misleading the audience, though. How does Ray approach that?
Well, he emphasizes the importance of delivering on those teases.
Of course, yeah.
You can't just leave people hanging. He shares this story from his time at WDIV in Detroit
Okay.
about the actor David Rappaport, who tragically committed suicide.
Oh, wow, that's awful.
It happened to be the same night that WDIV was airing LA Law, where Rappaport played a memorable character.
Oh, right. That must have been a really sensitive situation to handle.
Absolutely. And Ray knew it was a story that would resonate with viewers, especially those tuning in after LA Law. So he crafted these teases for the 10 p.m. and the 10:30 p.m. news updates,
Okay.
hinting that a familiar face from LA Law had died. But he didn't reveal any specifics, and he didn't show any footage of Rappaport. He waited until well into the third block of the 11 p.m. newscast to actually reveal the full story.
That's incredible. So he created this sense of anticipation, this mystery that stretched over an hour. He piqued their curiosity, but he did it without being exploitative.
Exactly. It's a great example of how to handle a sensitive story ethically, while still acknowledging its newsworthiness.
Right. It really speaks to the power of a well-crafted tease. But it also raises some really interesting ethical questions about how far you can push the envelope without actually misleading your audience.
Yes, definitely balancing act.
Yeah, it's a fine line to walk, for sure. It's really inspiring to see how Ray approaches content creation.
It really is.
And he's worked on so many different shows.
I know, right?
From the KTLA Morning News and E! News Live to Eye Opener in Chicago and Dallas, and even Good Morning America Sunday.
And each show has its own unique style, but they all prioritize personality.
It's all about setting the tone and letting the audience know what to expect right from the get-go.
And speaking of setting the tone, one of the most interesting things Ray talks about is embracing the underdog role.
Oh, the underdog role.
Right.
How does that translate into creating compelling content?
Well, he's at the example of the KTLA Morning News in Los Angeles. They were going up against giants like Good Morning America and Today.
Those are some tough competitors.
And they knew they couldn't compete with those budgets or star power.
So they had to find a different way to connect with viewers.
Exactly. They did it by openly acknowledging their limitations.
What do you mean?
Like, the anchors would joke about not being able to afford car service for guests.
Really?
Yeah, or how celebrities would ditch them for the network shows.
So they turned their weaknesses into a source of humor and relatability.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
And it resonated with viewers. People loved their self-deprecating humor and underdog spirit.
It's like they said, hey, we're not perfect, but we're trying our best.
And Ray actually connects this to Malcolm Gladwell's book, David and Goliath.
Oh, yeah. I love that book.
Gladwell explores how underdogs are often forced to be more creative and resourceful because they have to.
They have to work smarter, not harder, to overcome those obstacles.
Right. It's that slingshot mentality.
I like that.
And Ray argues that this mentality can be incredibly effective in content creation. It forces you to think outside the box.
Find creative solutions. Connect with your audience authentically.
You got it. But is there a danger in clinging to the underdog role for too long?
Yeah, that's a good question. Could it make you seem less credible or capable as you grow?
There's definitely a risk. As the KTLA Morning News gained success, they started losing some of that underdog charm.
What happened?
Well, the anchors started hobnobbing with celebrities, buying fancy cars, and it alienated some viewers.
Who felt like they weren't relatable anymore.
It's a cautionary tale about staying true to your roots and remembering what connected with your audience in the first place.
Authenticity is key.
Absolutely. People can spot a fake a mile away.
And knowing when to adapt your strategy is just as important as finding the right strategy to begin with.
So much great stuff in this book.
I know, right?
What are your biggest takeaways?
Well, I think one of the biggest things for me is that while technical proficiency is essential, it's the storytelling, the human connection, the personality that makes content truly memorable.
It's those genuine moments that leave a lasting impression.
Like Bill Bonds with the Girl Scout cookies.
Or the mama duck rescuing her duckling. Or Kirby O'Connell's off-camera wit.
Those are the things that stick with people.
And then, of course, there's choosing the right stories, the ones that genuinely resonate with your audience.
Using Ray's lead filter and regional priorities to guide those decisions.
Filtering for freshness, visual appeal, and relevance while prioritizing local and relatable content.
And when it comes to presentation, Ray's a master at packaging content for maximum impact.
Using teases strategically, crafting compelling introductions, and keeping the audience hooked.
And he demonstrated the power of embracing that underdog role as long as you stay true to your roots as you grow.
It's not a one-size-fits-all formula.
It's about understanding your audience, trusting your instincts,
and being willing to experiment and take risks.
It's finding that perfect blend of technical skill, creative vision, and genuine human connection.
Beautifully said. And as we wrap up this deep dive, we have one final question for you. How can you apply these principles to your own content creation?
Whether it's for work, a personal project, or even just sharing information with friends, what stories are you passionate about?
How can you inject your unique voice and perspective?
How can you use technology without losing sight of the human element that truly connects?
So much to consider.
It's a lot, but it's exciting stuff.
Thanks for joining us on this journey.
It was fun.
We'll be back soon with another deep dive into a new topic. Until then, keep those creative sparks flying.
You're in the conference room with coworkers. Do you know why it's absolutely essential you sit right next to your office enemy? Your boss tilts her head toward you, exposing her carotid artery. What is the message she's unconsciously sending you? Do you know the one incredibly simple thing you must do during a job interview to instantly make you a top candidate for the position? The answers are found in the science known as psychological intelligence. It's essential you armor up with every available advantage in today's business environment to decode the minds of your bosses, coworkers, clients, and customers. More than 100 hacks are revealed in this powerful book. Don't play fair. Psych Intel Hacks for Office Success. It's an Amazon bestseller from author Jagger Chase, best-selling author of 101 Ways to Cash In Now with ChatGPT and AI, the biggest wealth builder in history. His book shares the wisdom winners use to outsmart adversaries, conquer obstacles, and soar to success in all areas of business. If you don't understand the strategic value in whispering, you can't be competitive in the office. Practice your due diligence, then buy the book. Don't play fair. Psych Intel Hacks for Office Success. Available now exclusively on Amazon in paperback, ebook, and audiobook.